Welcome back to Just Cap Entertainment. In today's episode, FBI Special Agent Sean Archer must undergo a daring facial transplant surgery to assume the identity of the criminal mastermind who murdered his only son in order to foil a terrorist plot. However, the criminal wakes up prematurely and seeks revenge. Castor Troy, the criminal mastermind, makes an assassination attempt on his greatest rival, FBI Special Agent Sean Archer, using a sniper rifle. As Sean embraces his son at a fun fair, the sniper bullet travels through him, narrowly missing his heart, but tragically killing his son. 6 years later, Castor plants a timed bomb in a convention center in Los Angeles, disguising himself as a priest to blend in. Meanwhile, Sean receives classified information that Castor's brother and accomplice, Nicolas Troy, has just chartered a jet at an airstrip. Knowing that Castor's brother wouldn't be flying without him, Sean calls the mission up immediately. Castor arrives at the airstrip and Nicolas tells him he chartered the place under his own name. He advises his brother that he should have sent one of the boys to do it and not risk exposing himself. He then sternly reminds his crew to stay away from LA on the 18th, as he has planted a bomb somewhere in the city, a bomb that could potentially cause catastrophic destruction. As the jet prepared to take off, the FBI descended in a fleet of all-terrain vehicles, surrounding the aircraft. It was then revealed that the air hostess had been planted by the FBI, and she pulled out a gun on Castor. Nicolas reacted quickly, attacking her and allowing Castor to enter the cockpit and threaten the pilot to speed up the jet. Castor then shot the hostess outside the plane, leaving Sean and Tito to tend to her. Upon discovering that she was dead, they continued the pursuit with the rest of the squad. Castor again demanded that the pilot take off, but the FBI chopper hovered above the wing, preventing the jet from taking off. Sean then immediately blew one of the plane engines. Upon seeing this, Castor then shoots his pilot and the jet crashed into a nearby building. A fierce gun battle ensued between the two parties, with Sean going after Castor. After a while, Sean had Castor at gunpoint, but Castor also had a chance to point his gun at Sean. When they both realized that they each had one bullet left in their pistols, Castor attempted to trick Sean into a conversation, indirectly revealing the bomb in LA and then attempting to shoot Sean unaware. However, the pistol only clicked, and Castor was forced to surrender. He then attempted to pull out a knife, but Sean was one step ahead and successfully knocked him out. Sean eventually returned home later that evening and told his wife Eve about his success. He had promised her that he would stop working with the FBI once he caught Castor and apply for a job that would give him more time for his family, and now he was finally able to keep that promise. The next morning, when Sean arrived at work, the entire bureau staff stood up and cheered for him, despite his somber mood due to the deaths of his fellow agents on the same mission. He entered his office to consider the case closed, but unfortunately Tito brought in another piece of news, followed by Holly's announcement that they had recovered a hard disk from Nicolas's briefcase containing information on a bomb. This news made Sean think back to what Castor had told him about blowing up LA. He went to the interrogation room to learn from Nicolas where the bomb was planted, but Nicolas promised not to say anything until he saw his brother, whom he was previously unaware of, was dead. At the same time, the FBI director Victor ordered Sean to go home since he didn't have enough evidence about the bomb. However, Hollis offered Sean a second option. She took him to a secret medical facility for special operations, where to his surprise, Castor was being kept alive in a coma. Hollis then suggested that Sean should go into prison with Nicolas and act as his brother so he could easily get the information about the bomb. This perplexed Sean and he sought to know what she meant. The director of the facility, Dr. Walsh, then explained the entire procedure to him. Sean would be given Castor's face transplant so he could deceive Nicolas and get the information. He was horrified and declined, so he went to interrogate all of Castor's accomplices, but got nothing about the bomb, making him conclude that only Castor and Nicolas knew about it. With no better option, he began to consider a daring plan, to go undercover and infiltrate the prison as Castor's brother. Knowing that it is synonymous with breaking the law, no one else is aware of the operation, not even the FBI, except for Tito, Hollis, and Dr. Walsh. Sean arrived home that night and informed Eve that he had one final assignment before he could keep his promise to be with them. The following day, he underwent a face transplant, with Castor's face being surgically attached to Sean's. The original face was kept in case the mission was completed and the process needed to be reversed. Additionally, Sean's voice was altered to sound like Castor's. Before being sent to prison, the plan was for Sean to get Nicolas to talk within 2 days, after which another agent would be sent to retrieve him. Sean soon found himself inside the prison, which was surrounded by a powerful magnetic field. The prisoners were given electromagnetic boots that tracked their positions at all times. After getting into a fight and being punished by one of the prison guards, Sean spotted Pollux and they began to converse. Pollux, thinking it was his brother, noticed that Sean had changed, but Sean managed to deceive him and they discussed the bomb. Sean was able to learn the bomb's location and was relieved that he hadn't spent too much time gathering the information. He returned to his cell, waiting to be pulled out in 2 days. Unfortunately, Castor awoke from his coma and discovered his face was missing. He looked around and then received a message that his face had been used by Sean to get something from his brother. Castor immediately called his men and arranged for Dr. Walsh to be brought to him. He then instructed Dr. Walsh to put Sean's face on him. After the transplant, Castor killed Dr. Walsh and the rest of the Special Ops crew, and burned down the facility, destroying any evidence that could identify the real Sean. The next day, Castor visited Sean in prison, leaving him utterly astonished as he could not comprehend how Castor had miraculously awoken from a coma. Castor then explained that he had been disturbed in his slumber by his facial wound. Afterward, Castor drove past Sean's house, before noticing Sean's wife. He then reversed, claiming that all the houses on the street looked the same, and began to act like Sean, captivating Eve's attention more than Sean ever had. He did the same thing to Sean's daughter, Janie, after walking in on her. Soon, Pollux was being released by Castor, and when Sean was informed, he rushed up to the warden to tell him about the bomb and its location, pretending to be Sean. However, the warden kicked him back into his cell. The following day, Pollux revealed the bomb's location to the FBI, and was granted amnesty after evacuating the convention center. The bomb squad arrived, but it would take them up to an hour to defuse the bomb, with only 15 minutes left until the explosion. Castor, however, quickly disarmed the bomb in a matter of seconds, earning a standing ovation from the Bureau and saving countless lives. Meanwhile, Sean was busy contemplating his future in prison. The next morning, Sean was granted a 1-hour exercise period, and while the other prisoners marched to the gym, he veered off the line and asked a guard for a cigarette. Despite the risk of punishment, he was determined to get his hands on one. He was beaten up, but still managed to get the cigarette. He then asked for a lighter, and as he was taken into the torture room, his boots were removed and his cigarette was lit. Just as they were about to begin the torture, he burned the hand of one of the guards with the cigarette and, with the help of another inmate, fought off the guards. They both made their way to the control room, where Sean managed to override the security and opened all the cell doors, creating a distraction. Unfortunately, his accomplice was shot and killed as they escaped the prison. To Sean's surprise, he found that the prison was on a rig in the middle of the ocean. He was then attacked by a chopper and jumped off into the ocean, leaving the guards to believe he was dead. Despite the odds, Sean managed to survive and stole a car to call Eve and warn her that the man she was with was not him. However, Eve did not understand and cut the call. He then attempted to call his superior, Victor, but Castor picked up instead and pretended to be Sean. Realizing that Castor had completely impersonated him, Sean went to Castor's accomplice, Dietrich, to spend the night. Dietrich's sister, Sasha, met him and tried to seduce him, but Sean resisted. Sasha then showed him a boy she had given birth to for Castor, which caused Sean to remember his own son, whom Castor had killed. When Janie's friends attempted to violate her in front of her house, Castor stepped in and delivered a swift justice, beating them up and handing Janie a butterfly knife for protection in case such a thing happened again. Pollux then called Castor to reveal Sean's location, prompting Castor to call a raid and the FBI to invade the building. In the ensuing crossfire, Castor killed Dietrich while Sasha fled the building with her son. Castor and Sean then engaged in a tense gunfight, but their techniques were so similar that neither could gain the upper hand. Later, as Pollux attempted to escape from the FBI, Sean knocked him off the roof of the building and he died at Castor's feet. An officer suspiciously found Castor upset because of Pollux's death, but Castor quickly eliminated him to conceal the truth. Sean later snuck into his own house to meet his wife, trying to convince her that he was indeed Sean, but she was scared and wouldn't believe him. He left her with a piece of advice to find out Castor's blood type to confirm this, since they had different types. That night, Eve secretly took Castor's blood sample and rushed back to the hospital to carry out the test, since she was a doctor. To her wonderful surprise, she discovered the truth. Meanwhile, Sean was already at the hospital. He then instructed Eve to give Castor a good excuse and leave the house. The next morning, while Castor attended the director's funeral service with Eve, Sean tipped him off about his presence and he went to meet him in a quiet place. Before long, Castor revealed that he had anticipated his actions by holding his wife at gunpoint and outnumbering him. Sasha soon joined the fray and bravely pointed her gun at Castor. In a moment of selfless courage, she caught a bullet for Sean during the ensuing gunfight. She begged Sean to look after their son and not raise him into a criminal like them. Castor then made a run for it out of the cathedral and Sean chased him. Sean managed to catch up with him, but Janie shot Sean in the shoulder, not knowing he was her father. Castor then grabbed Janie and held her as a shield. She then bravely stabbed him in the leg with the butterfly knife he had given her. Castor fled immediately, shooting everyone in his way, and then stole a boat and zoomed off. Sean followed him on another boat until their boat collided with a yacht and caught fire. He then jumped on Castor's boat and they began to fight. Seeing that they were going to crash, Sean rushed to steer and direct the boat through a narrow course. Meanwhile, Castor attempted to hit him with the anchor, but Sean dropped into the water, luckily grabbing the boat's chain. He then managed to climb back onto the boat just before it crashed. As they exchanged fists, Castor beat Sean up with a pipe, but Sean later grabbed a harpoon and used it to kill Castor. What remained was the evidence to prove Sean's identity, or else he would have gone to prison again. Fortunately, Eve had already done the talking, so when the FBI arrived, the agents addressed him by his real name, Sean Archer. Their faces were later re-swapped, and Sean eventually adopted Sasha's son, Adam, into his home, thus bringing the story to a close.